Okay, we're back. We're live with graduate student Roberto Rodriguez from CITAR, the College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources. And hi, welcome to the show, Roberto.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, great to have you here. And he's working on herbicide ballistic technology. And you've been doing that for a long time. In fact, that had to be your master's work, huh?
Yes, so that's been the past 2 years.
And you just graduated, or just taken the master's?
Yeah, so I'll be graduating in May.
Okay, that'll be good. And while the moment strikes me, let me ask you, what are you going to do then?
After that, I'm going to keep going for my PhD, still at UH Manoa.
At CITAR?
Yes.
Well, that's great. Good for you. Good for CITAR. Let me just tell you a little about him. He's a Master of Science student, has been, and when we say Roberto Rodriguez, we're saying MBBE. What does that stand for?
Molecular Biosciences and Biological Engineering.
Okay. And what, your undergraduate was at UH?
Yes.
Also? He was awarded the Pied Piper Award for his presentation at the 40th Annual Albert Tester Symposium on the use of herbicide ballistic technology. We're going to learn about ballistics here, to reach remote locations. The symposium is named in favor of a beloved UH professor, Albert Tester, and this symposium solicits papers reporting an original scientific research from UH students. So your work is original then?
Yes.
Didn't have to be. For a master's, you don't have to be original, do you?
No, you don't, but at least in my opinion, if you want your master's to actually mean anything.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, you might as well do original. Yeah. Okay, and the judges in this program were very enthusiastic. They said, and I quote, "Your talk," referring to Roberto Rodriguez, "was so well put together, highly entertaining, and your presentation was positively mesmerizing. We want some of that here today." You were awarded the Pied Piper Award for your expert presentation of your profession, the unique method you used to deliver herbicide, and your charismatic delivery. Wow, this is terrific. You didn't write this, did you?
I did not.
No, I don't. Okay. After watching your talk, we all wanted to follow in your footsteps and change our professions to become part of the Aerial Herbicide Task Force. Roberto also won an award at last year's Student Research Symposium for his GPS for herbicide ballistic technology. So you come on good recommendation here, Roberto. Thank you. Just take a moment to say that we're doing Twitter. If you want to give us questions or comments, you can do that. Our address is at ThinkTech Hi, H-I. And we already had one little comment this morning from the Hawaii State Senate, which said, "Good morning to ThinkTech Hawaii." Anyway, so what in the world is herbicide ballistic technology, Roberto?
All right, so we start off with encapsulating herbicide. So typically we're using Garlon, which is a specific type of herbicide. And we place that inside of we use gelatin encapsulation, but the more normal way of saying it is paintball.
Gelatin encapsulation is really paintball. It's the same technology.
It's the same thing,
Yeah,
but
okay.
when you're putting it on a grant application, you kind of want to not say gun in any way, shape, or form,
Yeah,
pretty much.
but this sure looks like a gun.
Nah, it's a paintball marker.
Okay, let me hold it up and let our audience be the judge. It's very high tech.
Yes.
And this is I don't know if it's a metal or a plastic, but
That is actually plastic out there.
plastic, this beautiful piece of gear. Okay, so this has something to do with the word ballistic then, eh?
Yes.
What does it do?
So it's that paintball containing the herbicide. We then actually remotely apply it. So we fill our paintball marker here. So we have a hole located on this side. That's where our paintball goes in. You'll then aim your paintball marker at your target plant and then fire at it. And we like to do about 20 projectiles per plant so that we can apply a lethal dose. That way, just in case we were to miss 1 or 2 shots, we're not going to kill the endangered species located right next to it.
Okay, so let me try to get a sort of a visual on this. You're in a helicopter.
We're in a helicopter.
And you're flying low to the ground. You're not high up.
We are, so one of the other parts of this is to measure how far away we are. We are usually within about 15 meters of the wall of the valleys.
So 15 meters above ground?
That's 50 meters to the wall. So so this is mainly used along valley edges, valley floors. So we are in very close proximity to the canopy that's around.
Okay, so so you're flying alongside a wall then,
Yes,
and you have this in your hands.
yes.
You must have done this many times in your research, eh?
It is part of mostly the enjoyable part of the research.
Okay, and you're pointing it at a certain plant
Mhm.
that's 45 meters,
15 meters.
15 meters, or 45 feet away. 40, that's not very far, actually.
That's not very far.
And it's loaded with some kind of herbicide, and you have a very narrow, what do you call it, scope of it. It doesn't go off the mark. It's all close, right?
Yes, ideally we're hitting just that one plant.
How wide is the point of contact?
So we like to be about 15 meters away, and then the plant is usually only about 6 feet length and width.
So the diameter would be 6 feet
Yep.
of the point where the missile lets go on the herbicide.
Yes.
Okay, and now this can carry how many? I love this. It's like a weapon, but it's not a weapon
It's
at
not
all.
a weapon.
This can carry how many capsules of herbicide?
So if you've seen a paintball before, you've seen that there's a hopper on top,
Mhm.
and that contains about 160 projectiles. And then we carry another about 30 additional pods that also can carry 160 projectiles, so that we reload pretty frequently.
Okay. So how many do you use on, say, 1 6-foot area to be sure you caught, whatever you wanted to kill with the herbicide?
I mean, it'll vary depending on the size of the plant, but we try to aim around 20 projectiles per.
20 projectiles on a 6-foot area.
Yes.
And then you'll move down or along the wall in the valley and go to the next plant?
Yes.
So you're not moving very fast,
No. Not at all.
slow.
Yep. So the idea is that while we're treating the plants, we're also looking for new plants at the same time. So it's trying to integrate searching for these plants that are invading, as well as treating them at the same time, so that we can save some money on the helicopter time.
Okay, helicopters are expensive.
Helicopters are $1,000 an hour.
Wow.
So if you work that out, it ends up being about a quarter for every second.
Yes, and furthermore, when you start the helicopter trip, you're not at your destination yet. That takes you a while.
Yep, so it can
just
take us
that.
around 20 minutes to get to where we need to be.
Do the math.
Yes.
That's really expensive. I did some aerial photography once in my life, so I know what you mean. You take the door off the helicopters, you can get a good shot.
Yes.
That's scary, isn't it? You got to strap in pretty good, don't you?
You put a lot of faith in those seatbelts, a lot of faith.
You really, and you're hanging out the side.
Yes.
It's out of a movie, actually. Okay, so we're moving along the wall. There's the sort of an escarpment, I guess, in the mountains.
Yep, so we are on the eastern side of East Maui watershed area.
Mhm.
There's a whole bunch of valleys, so we're scanning along the sides of those that would be difficult for a ground crew to get to.
Okay. Now, you have to be sure that the plant you're looking at is the plant you want, right?
Yes.
How do you know?
This is all by visual inspection, so all of our people are trained to know exactly what they're looking for. So right now we're working primarily with Myconia calvescens, which has
Say that slowly.
Myconia calvescens.
Myconia.
Myconia.
This is an invasive
This is,
species.
this is actually in the top 100 invasive species in the world.
And so we don't like them.
No,
Why don't we like them?
because they are capable of wiping out pretty much every other piece of vegetation there. So it's actually taken over most of Tahiti, where it's taken over about 70% of all vegetation. So if you can get an idea, because they grow basically in monotopic, so there will be nothing but Myconia in that area.
So the herbicide you're throwing down on them, you want to kill them.
Yes,
You want to make mort.
yes.
Okay. And so are you getting that result? I mean, do you go back and watch, Roberto, to see, look again a second time?
Yes,
To see if you
so-
did the job?
We actually have to, because they have very long-lived seed bank. So when they set seed, it can last for almost 5 years at a time. So we have to keep going back, making sure there's no new plants sprouting up over and over again to make sure we've gotten all of them.
So this is work.
Yes,
I mean, now you said there were other people on the helicopter too.
yes.
How big is the team?
So we like to go with about 3 people, pilot of course, and then someone in the, so you can see 4 in the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
Front left is pilot, front right is what we call the navigator.
Mm-hmm.
They are basically keeping track, making sure that we are going along the course that we set out originally.
But the navigator is not shooting paintballs?
No,
Okay.
but their job is also to check for any spots that might be off to the right, because obviously the pilot can't see that.
Right.
And then we have the person who is the applicator, the person firing paintballs in the back left, so that they share the same side as the pilot, so that we can communicate a lot better in order to get to exactly where they need to be.
You're talking on phones all the time.
No. We tricked this out. We got helmet cam.
Okay. Okay, so you have one shooter on the left, one shooter on the right.
No shooters on the right side. Only on the left
Okay, just
side.
on the left. So, and that would be only one person.
Yes.
So only one of these is operating at
Yes.
a time. Okay. And you're constantly, well, I guess you'd say to the pilot, stop for a minute. That's not the right word. Don't go forward for a minute because we want to put some more paintballs, more herbicide on this plant.
Yes, so we'll
Right.
normally be traveling along. Whoever sees it will then call out, hey, we need to go this particular area. They'll usually use, I guess if you've been in a helicopter before, you know, you usually say like 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock,
Mhm.
that kind of area.
Mhm.
Pilot will then check, look at it, hold hover right in that area so that you can continue firing at the plant.
So you never get closer to the wall, so to speak, the escarpment, than 15 meters.
We've gotten pretty, also you have to keep in mind that since it's a canopy, there's trees that are taller than the rest of them that might be sticking out, so.
So you
we
can't
get-
always see exactly where the wall is.
So we end up sometimes being, you can reach out and touch some of the trees sometimes.
Okay, there's a certain danger to that. Isn't
You should not do that. The pilots will yell at you if you do
Don't
it,
do
but you
this
can.
at home, yeah. Okay, and then how long do you stay out doing this?
So we are currently doing 2-hour fuel cycles, and then we fly back, refuel, so we like to do 3 of those 2-hour fuel cycles, so 6 hours per day.
Does the herbicide require special handling? I mean, is this a pathogen for human people?
No.
If you get it on your skin, is it a problem?
It can be if you got in high dose, but particularly what we're working with, this is less than 1% of the normal dosage, so it's very small dosage.
Okay, why? So I mean, if you had a higher dosage, you'd be more effective, wouldn't you?
You would, but then you would run the risk of hitting any of the rest of the plant, because what we want to do is keep everything fairly concentrated in that small area, so you're not affecting the rest of the vegetation. Because the last thing we want to do is wipe out entire areas of vegetation in Hawaii.
Yeah, okay. You know, it strikes me, though, that, you know, you're the university and you're doing research and taking degrees in the process. But this sounds like real work. This sounds like you're out there killing Myconia.
Yes.
Why doesn't the State Department of Agriculture, for example, do this?
So this is actually mostly done by the Maui Invasive Species Committee. So all of the invasive species committees for each of the island control whatever they're doing for that area. And they will pull funds from the state in order to perform these operations, because we're also working closely with Honolulu National Park and those areas.
So the Department of Agriculture is involved?
Yes.
So this is kind of a public-private or university-public partnership kind of
Yes.
thing? Yeah, okay. All right, so now let's talk about the science. Okay, obviously you didn't design the paintball gun,
No.
Although that would be something. And you didn't design the herbicide,
No.
but what you have designed here is the system for applying the herbicide
Yes.
to the invasive species. That's the thing. And so you chart everything, right?
We like to. Originally, it was designed purely as the means of firing the herbicide to it, and then we were just using handheld GPS units. So like you would if you went hiking,
Yeah.
strapping that on there and then taking a point whenever we see a plant. But then we really wanted to automate the process further. So part of my project ended up being to track every time we fire a paintball, and then recording the rest of the information so we can track exactly where the paintball is landing.
Okay, so at the end of the day, you're going to be able to chart out or have a GPS map or something of exactly where you went, you know, foot by foot, I
Yep.
suppose, and what you did with the plants.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and we here at ThinkTech, we do the same thing. We spend 15 minutes, then we take a break. That way we know where we are. It's kind of a GPS thing. You know? Okay, that's Roberto Rodriguez. I'm Jay Fidel, and we're about to take a break. Watch this.
Aloha, my name is Miley Scarpino, and I'm the host of the Empower Hour. If you're interested in health, nutrition, fitness, here on the island of Oahu, want to learn more about places to train at or different trainers available, then watch my show on Fridays at 3. We have a great time, and I hope that you'll come join us. Much aloha. Now go get swole.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island and ER physician. Every other Tuesday, I get to host a show here on the ThinkTech program about healthcare. We call it Healthcare in Hawaii. It's really enjoyable for me to bring other healthcare leaders from around the state to talk about our pressing issues. Hawaii has long been the health state, but we need to keep up the momentum, the inertia, and with your help and with your participation, we can come and share all of the big issues that are pressing day to day. Thanks for joining us every Tuesday, alternating weeks from 2 to 2:45.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here with Roberto Rodriguez. He's a graduate student just taking his Master's in Science at CITAR, the College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, in the subject of herbicide ballistic technology. I guess the ballistic refers to the gun.
Mostly to the encapsulated herbicide, so the paintball. But
Okay, the paintball. Okay, ballistic means the ball.
yes, so the method you're using is
You know, like,
ballistic.
when I watch CIS, they talk about ballistics, right? It's all about the projectile.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, so did you start this project? Did you sort of put the pieces together on this and identify the equipment that you would need to fire the herbicide and then to keep a record of where you fired it?
So my main responsibility is the keeping the record part. The actual design of placing the herbicide inside the paintball was done by Dr. James Leary.
Mhm.
And so he's basically my boss for the rest of this project.
He's actively involved right now.
Yes, so he's still
So what do you call principal investigator, is that
Yes.
fair? Okay, all right. Okay, so all this with the gun is pretty mechanical, but then keeping a record of where you were and what you did, that's science. So tell us what you have invented here.
Okay, so inside of the marker, there's actually a circuit board. So we basically pull the signal off of that along these two wires here.
What do you pull off the,
This is actually connected internal to the solenoid, and we have a picture, I don't know.
we have a picture? Okay, we're getting
There we go,
that
so you'll
picture.
see
What is
the-
that picture?
So that's internal of the gun, so that circuit board on the bottom, the green.
Mhm.
So those two wires are connected to what's called the solenoid, which is the silver piece in the top right.
Mhm.
And that will actually control the airflow firing the paintball. So the valve has to open in order to let the air come through it, and then it has to close again so that you're not just keep expelling air.
So you're not actually firing this with your trigger finger? This is automated?
No, so whenever you pull the trigger,
Yeah.
it sends that signal to the solenoid.
Okay. And that signal fires the paintball?
Yes,
Okay. So this is just part of the trigger mechanism?
yes, essentially.
Okay, we'll continue then.
Okay, so then that is sent over to this board here, and on this pin here, so that we can track every single time that that valve is triggered, and that'll basically tell us every time we fired that projectile.
Okay, so we know how many times you did it, and, and you told me during the break, which I really enjoy this a lot, is it doesn't live on that board. Can I touch it?
No, go ahead.
Oh! Doesn't live on this board. It's a really interesting looking board.
Yeah, so all that information is actually then sent over to a smartphone over a Bluetooth connection. So that's that blue piece right there is the Bluetooth connection. So the phone is basically responsible for the GPS portion of it, as well as storing all of that information. So we make sure that we're not overtaxing the memory over here.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing on there that looks like it's a drive or anything.
Nope.
Maybe memory, but that wouldn't be enough.
Nope.
So today, I'm actually getting my new phone in the mail. I'm getting an Android Note 6 Edge.
Yeah.
Check it out. This is really good. Okay, so does your app work on any phone? Will it work on my Edge?
It will work on the Edge. It works on most of the new phones. Basically, you just need it to be updated enough where it can have Bluetooth connection and use Google Maps, because that's basically how we're plotting all of these points out initially.
Okay, can I see your phone for a minute? This is
Mine-
the phone you use when you go up in the helicopter?
This is not, because this is quite old, but it does run
Okay,
it.
there it is. It's a Samsung.
Yes, it
You
is.
can't go wrong with a Samsung. But you could use this
Yes.
very phone in order to record all that information.
Yes, so I use that phone for most of my experimentation, but we have a different phone that we use for actual operation because that has a longer battery life. But
Okay.
this won't last long enough using Bluetooth connected to internet so that it can plot all the maps out.
Okay, so, and it picks it up by what, Bluetooth?
Yes, it's a Bluetooth.
This board is sending it out by Bluetooth?
Yes,
And this is picking it up?
yes.
Where's the phone putting it? I mean, where's the file structure?
So it puts in a comma separated variable file. So it stores, so it's pulling the information constantly from the board, and then delimiting it whether it's, so we also are taking track points the whole time as well.
What track points?
So just like a
So
GPS waypoint.
So, right?
Yep, so we're,
You always know, what, by the second, I mean, or some fraction of a
yes,
second?
we do every 5 seconds for the GPS,
Where
but then
you are,
when
okay.
we're firing, we keep track of that every time as well.
So the actual firing moment is a point of data
Yes,
for the GPS,
yes,
okay? And that also goes into your phone.
yes.
Where does it go from? Does it go from this? Is this keeping the GPS or sending the GPS information?
No, the GPS we're actually using is on the phone as well.
Okay, so it'll be a foot away, not a problem, you know?
I mean,
you're not-
normally
you're
the
not compromising
marker is
it.
right here. The phone is usually attached here, so you can see the display as well.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean,
So it's
it's
at the
the right
point
place.
of the muzzle, effectively? Okay. So now you have two databases working, right? The GPS database, and you have this database, the actual firing database. Or are they linked into the same?
They're linked together, so this is just streaming all of that information to the phone, and the phone is basically recording every time it detects that event. So if it's been
Okay.
every 5 seconds, it records all the data, or if you fired the projectile, it records all the data.
Okay, and now that's what system are you using to keep that data in your phone? I mean, what's the program or the app?
So we actually wrote a customized app for it.
You did that. Oh, we're starting to get scientific now. What did you use to write that app?
So at the time, we were using the Eclipse IDE.
Eclipse?
But now that Android has updated to have their own database called Android Studio, I'm sure you've heard that. Now we'd have to actually rewrite it because in order to take advantage of all the newer updates, you
Yeah.
need to use that new one.
For Android?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, well, my will require a further rewrite if you use an Edge. But I mean, I think that points out something very interesting, Roberto. And that is you start out with something that relates to, herbicide, and you wind up writing code for a cell phone.
Yes.
So, and that's the way science works now, right?
Mm-hmm.
No scientist is exempt from the need to write code.
That or they hire somebody else to do it.
Yeah, but you wrote it this
Yes.
time. Okay, did you have to learn it? I mean, it's not so easy to write an app for a database application.
No, it's not.
No. Okay, good work. So now you've got it in this database file in the phone, which I expect, with any degree of storage at all, it's going to be able to carry a huge amount of data,
Yes.
more space than you'll ever need on that phone to carry the data from it. What do you do with that file?
So after we've recorded all the information we need, we then put that into GIS programs, so something that'll process all that geospatial information. So in particular, we use ArcGIS. So all the data has to be saved in a file format that is acceptable by that program.
What's the name of the program?
ArcGIS.
Oh,
ARC-GIS.
ArcGIS, just the GIS program.
Yes.
Okay, so now at the end of the day, ArcGIS is going to prepare a map for you,
Yes.
right? And it'll print out exactly where you went and what the track of your firing.
Yep.
Down to a very close tolerance, I
Yes.
guess, like inches maybe.
I mean, it's down to whatever the GPS accuracy is. And
Yeah, okay.
unfortunately, because we're constantly in motion, GPS can't get a really nice fix.
Yeah,
So it's
because you're
usually,
moving around, yeah.
yeah, so it's usually like 5 meters.
Yeah, oh, okay, 5
It's actually
meters.
pretty bad sometimes.
Now, did you start out with a map before you took the helicopter up there? Where you said, well, this is the area we want to cover, and then you have now another map where it shows what in fact you did cover, and then you overlay to see that you covered what you hoped to cover, or what?
Yeah, so typically there's going to be a flight before we go out sometimes, and they'll prepare a map for us saying this is where we detected plants, or this is the areas that we've covered
And
before.
that's eyeball.
Sometimes we'll also use ArcGIS for that because someone will go out with a different app and they'll just keep track of any points they see.
Visually, it's
Yeah.
a visual recognition of the Myconium.
Yes.
Okay, and then you start getting an idea about where you want to actually do the job.
Yeah, and then because we also need to get permissions to go if we have to go in any private property, any government lands, in order to be able to apply that herbicide.
So if you want to, that's interesting. If you want to fly along the escarpment in, this will be really remote land, I guess, and shoot down the Myconia, you have to get permission from somebody.
Yes.
How does that, do you get the permission?
I do not do that. That's all the flight managers.
Okay, all right. And is he getting permission to shoot down the Myconia, or is he getting permission to just fly the helicopter over that area?
We usually do it in both, in terms of getting to fly over as well as apply herbicide.
Okay, ooh, exciting, okay. So now you have the map. What do you, oh, is this the map?
This is a map, yep, so that is actually...
Tell us what that is.
So this is actually the main screen of the app, so it'll actually keep a map as well before putting it into the software. So each of those red dots represents one of the treated plants, and the arrow is showing that area. So in the bottom, you see all the data, the GPS coordinates and the accuracy. So this is plus or minus 8 meters. And then we also have altimeter measurements.
Coordinates right down to the really small fractions. Okay.
Yes. And then also on the board, we're keeping track of the azimuth and tilt. So that is basically direction from north as well as from parallel. So we can use that information to actually determine the GPS coordinates of the plant itself rather than just the GPS of the helicopter.
How big is a plant? How big is a Myconia plant?
I mean, they're about 6 feet by 6 feet, so 6 feet diameter.
You know, one of the things struck me is that you're on top of them, right?
Yes.
If you're on top of them, your paintball herbicide canister is only going to hit the top.
Yes.
So is that the most effective way to do it? Wouldn't it be better if you were down there on the ground, shooting them at their roots, at their stem, you know?
I mean, it ultimately depends on the herbicide, but this particular one is systemic, so we want to apply herbicide across the majority of the plant, along the leaves, along the stems.
So this would be more efficient because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. And the track is it one plant or is it multiple plants when you go down?
It depends on what plants we're seeing. Sometimes we'll see like 3 plants in one general area because they spread seeds usually close to each other. Other times we'll have one plant and then another plant almost 200
This
feet
is
away.
Alice Lee Hagen, host of...
So, they may not be exactly contiguous then.
Nope, so you'll end
They're
up with some
spread
separation.
around.
Yep.
So you're flying plant to plant.
Yes.
How can you tell a Myconia plant from another kind of plant?
So Myconia has actually very large leaves, and they're very bright green, and then they're purple on the underside. So everyone up in the helicopter has basically been trained on what Myconia plants look like. They all know, and then they'll confirm with each other, hey, this is Myconia plant.
So, wow, this is, can we see that picture one more time? There's one thing I want to ask Roberto. Roberto, up in the left-hand corner. You didn't think I'd see that, eh? What is that?
So that is the emblem we use for all of our operations. So we call our little cadre fraternity the Purple Berets.
The
So
purple berets.
The purple berets.
The purple meaning the color of the Myconia.
yes.
You heard it here on ThinkTech.
It's important to have a sense of humor when you're going up in the air.
Okay, so now you got these maps, and you've shown where you fired, and then that helps you go back and see maybe whether you got to do it again in that
Yes.
area for that plant. Okay, what else does it? How else does it help you do? I mean, what do you do with that information aside from, look back and finish the job? Is there anything else?
We also have to use it for planning purposes because we also like to keep track of. So we like to say that if you find a mature plant, so a plant that bears seeds, you need to know where that one is because you need to then check within a certain amount of feet of that over and over again because it might have set seeds. Whereas if it's a juvenile plant that hasn't set seeds before, you can usually be a little further away. You don't need to check that area as vigorously.
Okay. What else? I mean, do you publish this? If I want to know where you've been working, can I go on the web and see your maps?
At the moment, no, but we are going to be working towards that so that people know areas that, because actually ultimately what we would like to do is actually have any civilians who might be walking around say, hey, I see a Myconia plant, report that location to us so that we can then go and get rid of it.
Oh, so you're using spotters, so to speak.
Most of the areas we can't because these are restricted use lands, so they're all protected watershed. People shouldn't be in there, which is one of the reasons we're
But if they
confident.
are,
But if they are and they see a plant, we would like to know.
yeah. I just, another question about the Myconia itself is that, that this can't get you into thousands of square miles of Myconia. This has got to be, even if you work really hard at it, even if you had multiple helicopters, it's hard to reach all that much geography. Are we winning the battle with Myconia or are we losing it?
Unfortunately, if you ask any of us, we're actually on our way to most of these sites. We fly over what we call the core, and it is an area that is basically 100% Myconia.
Ooh.
So we fly over that every time, and we just look at it and say, do we actually have an impact? And I'd like to think that we do because we are treating these plants that are further away from that area, just trying to keep it contained. Because one of the biggest problems with all invasive species management is funding. And right now there's just not enough funding in order for us to send ground teams in and just wipe out Myconia in that area. So what we're focused on is containment, keeping it from spreading to new areas.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Roberto Rodriguez at CITAR, the College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources. We're talking today about herbicide ballistic technology at CITAR. It's very, very interesting. You didn't know about this. I didn't know about this. We'll be right back.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevlin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday.
This is Alice Lee Hagan, host of ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My show here at ThinkTech Hawaii is every Thursday from 3 to 4 in the afternoon. I bring in interesting guests from Hawaii, the mainland, and hopefully international guests in the future. Do join us on Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here with Roberto Rodriguez. He's a graduate student at CITAR. So far, he's dedicated his graduate experience to herbicide ballistic technology, which is on the table in front of me. But there's a part of this that you haven't yet described, and it looks like another circuit board. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? Ooh, there are lenses in it.
Yes.
Ooh, what is that?
So this is a laser rangefinder. So on the right side we have a laser. So it'll emit at 850 nanometers. And then when it strikes a target, so in our case it'll be the plant surfaces, it'll send a signal back, which is read by this lens on the left. And based on the time it takes for the light to strike the plant and come back, you can actually calculate the distance to the plant. And that information is then, so you actually need a pretty powerful processor in order to process those kind of speeds, because light travels pretty quickly. And that information is then sent over to this board here.
Okay, and so that board now with Bluetooth is reporting both the send time and the hit time back to the
no,
database.
So all that is stored on here, and that just pipes over the distance measurement right over to the board. So
Right.
it doesn't have to do any of those calculations.
No, but it's another piece of data though, right?
Yes.
It's the hit data, that it hit at a certain time.
Yes.
So that way you get still another field in your database, send, hit, and location.
Yep.
Right. Did I miss any fields? Send, hit, location.
Some of the rest of the other fields in here, so we actually have a compass and a barometric pressure sensor on here, so that allows us to keep track of what their altitude is. So not sure if you know, but GPS is actually pretty bad at altitude.
No, I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, so it can actually be about 3 times the error in your horizontal. So we need an additional way of measuring the altitude.
Okay.
So we keep track of the altitude, and then also we keep track of the azimuth, so that's the angle from north. So in this direction.
Which way it's pointing?
Yes, and then tilt being top and bottom, so that we can calculate exactly what direction the marker is pointed at when we're firing at that plant. That way we can calculate our offset to determine the location of the actual plant.
Okay. What are the other pieces that you've got on the table there?
So this right here is actually a mount, so that we can attach that directly onto our marker, so that it's not going to move at
You
all.
mean the hit board? The hit board or the
Yes, so that we can
Bluetooth
attach
board?
the. So this is our.
That's the Bluetooth board.
Yeah, so
I
it
call
contains the rest of the sensors as well, so it's our main
Okay.
board. And
Where
then,
does the hit board go?
So this one actually goes underneath, on here.
I hope you cover it up when you're
We
working.
do. That was an annoying piece of it.
Okay, and this is another board.
So this one will
of some
actually
kind.
just sit on top of here to protect it from any water damage.
Okay.
And then this last piece right here will actually plug in on this side. And this is how we tell it whenever we switch to a new target every time.
Oh, because otherwise it would get confused.
Yep.
And now you said that they fire off pretty quickly.
Yes.
So you don't want it to be confused between one plant and the other. So
Yes.
all the data that comes back in this kind of burst of data is all about one plant.
Yes.
Okay, so you hold, it repeats, right? You hold it down for a while, let a few projectiles go, stop, go to the next plant, do it again.
Yep.
But when you stop, you're gonna hit that button
Yep. So every
to
time.
tell it not to get confused between the one and the other.
Yes.
You designed all this, huh?
Yes.
Pretty good. When you were a kid, Roberto, did you do paintballs?
I did not. I did not touch paintballs until I got here and started on this project.
Okay, well, I promised you I was going to ask you the larger, application of what you're doing. So we know that you can make GIS maps of where you went, what you did, and you can overlay them to see, the effect of your herbicide shooting. But where else can we use this technology other than in herbicide ballistic, herbicide killing myconia? Where else can we use it?
So one of the big things, hot topics right now is UAV work,
Is what?
unmanned aerial vehicles. So
Okay,
all
okay.
those nice fancy things flying around.
Sure, we do a lot with them.
So this board can actually be very easily be manipulated so that it can track any electronic event. Because actually one thing that is currently being done is actually UAVs for agriculture work, so spraying fields. We still need to be able to keep track of how much herbicide is being applied then, recording the exact destination it's being applied, because you can have effects like wind or other things. That'll be pulling it in different areas you don't want it to be in, but if we can keep track of where those are, what the prevailing conditions are, we can keep track of all this information.
So, and that goes for the proposition that you don't want to overspray,
Yes.
and you don't want to spray beyond the area you intended to
Yes.
spray. So if it's like the GMO issue about you don't want the GMOs to get outside of the boundaries
Yes.
where they were originally, being experimented with. Okay, so that's pretty interesting because I think ultimately that saves money if you're spending money on herbicides. It also saves the plants on the side that you don't want to, spray. Is this limited to plants?
By no means. It can track any electronic event, so whether you're taking pictures, it can keep track of that, timestamp everything else.
I'm wondering if this, I hate to suggest it, but I'm wondering if this could be used as a war weapon.
I mean, personally, I'd like to think that the military is already on top of that, but it can have that application.
Okay, we don't have to go into that right now, right here, but it does suggest that you can control your firing and feedback on your firing and
Yep.
get a handle on exactly where you put something.
Yes.
And my mind flies with possibilities. So what's the future of the project? You're taking the masters. Does that mean that there's a leg of the journey that's done on the research, or is the research continuous?
I mean, the research is going to go on so long as there's invasive plant species in Hawaii, because we still need to keep treating them. We need to keep recording data on them.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as they're here, we need to keep track, because actually some of the other plants we work with other than myconia are strawberry guava, kalihi ginger. So these are different plants. They have different features. We have different methods of different herbicides, different numbers of projectiles for each of those. We need to keep track of all that information still.
You're not doing the strawberries, for example, right now.
We actually are working a little bit on strawberry guava right now, but because you need to change the herbicide formula every time for slightly different
It's
plants,
a hassle.
it takes like 3 years in order to go through USDA to get approval.
Okay. So you got to get all kinds of approvals before you start a project
Yes.
like this. So is there anybody else? I mean, this is an island, kind of project because you're talking about invasive species. And, if you were in Oregon, I don't think you'd care that much about invasive species. But query, I mean, is this useful on the mainland? Is it useful elsewhere where it's not an island?
Yes, so we are actually doing a collaboration with University of California, Davis on possibly using this technology to treat actually different animals like bees or wasps that might be in areas where it would be very difficult to get to for a ground team. And because it's not purely vertical, you need to be able to apply your pesticides in a horizontal fashion, but you need to still be away from it.
Mm-hmm.
So this offers a way to treat those invasive pests or just pests in general without having to get really close to them.
Oh, so it goes to animals too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a pest, whatever. I mean, a pest is an insect.
Yes.
So then it becomes an insecticide instead of an herbicide.
Yes.
And the same idea would prevail. It's
Yep, the same idea applies.
Yeah. Well, that might be very helpful. But again, the question is whether you can keep up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I see that as a big issue if you have a large area of infestation, say,
Yes.
on pests. So the question is, are you working on anything with regard to this technique that would expand or increase your ability to reach larger areas, so that if you had a really big area of Myconia or some invasive pest, you could cover it all. I mean, where you could be confident that you could get it all, get it fast. Are you working on expanding it for that purpose?
So there's a different technology we use for areas that have a larger population in a very small concentrated area, and that's what we call spray ball, which is basically a ball affixed to the bottom of the helicopter with a hose on it. And you'll actually just dump herbicide on that area rather than having it in small projectiles. But the issue then is that basically it's all in the pilot in order to get right over the plants, which can take some time in order to keep track of it. And you have to position the hose, which can have a lot of sway if it's pretty full. So it comes down a lot to a matter of, if you have enough plants in that small area, that is a possible technology. But if you're dealing with small populations, then you go to this technology.
Yeah, okay, so this is more accurate, easier to actually apply in its own way.
Yep, and even then, that's still all aerial. So if you can, it's always cheapest to put some ground crews in, have them just cut, treat the stem, whatever they need to do.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a minute more, Roberto, and I wonder if you could face that camera,
Right?
and tell, well, whichever camera has the red tally light on, okay, and tell them why they should go into science, why they should study herbicide ballistic technology.
It's a lot of fun. I get to fly in helicopters. Not many people get to do that. It's mostly just about having fun, doing what you love. Because, I mean, once I started getting into electronics, there's just a whole bunch of field, and then you get stuck in the lab for long periods of time. Not quite as much fun. And then you take that outside, go up in a helicopter, breathe some fresh air, see some beautiful vistas that normal people don't get to see. And all while just keeping track of paintballs.
Science takes you places that ordinary life does not take you.
Yes, it does.
Good for you, Roberto.
Thank you.
I wish you well, not only in the master's, but in the PhD.
Thank you very much.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel of ThinkTech Hawaii. Won't you consider helping ThinkTech? We're a 501c3 Hawaii nonprofit corporation, now in our 15th year. Our model and very existence depends on ongoing contributions from our underwriters. We are very appreciative for their support. We're hoping you will consider becoming one of our ThinkTech underwriters. Unless our underwriters prefer to be anonymous, we publicize them on thinktechhawaii.com and on our daily email program, sent to some 7,500 subscribers, our live stream talk shows, and our OC16 productions. With help from our underwriters, we have developed a high-tech video studio in Pioneer Plaza, and we now live stream 25 talk shows per week, covering science, tech, energy diversification, community, sustainability, and globalism for Hawaii. And we stream our earlier shows all night long. Our live stream is on thinktechhawaii.com. Check it out. We also upload all our shows to youtube.com, where we get 18,000 views per month. And we broadcast 12 hours per week on Olelo 54 and 3.5 hours per week on OC16. We also do monthly luncheon panel programs at the Laniakea, and we write a monthly column for the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. We're really active. Our plans this year include improving the coverage, content, and production values of all of our programs, and including more issues and guests relating to the neighbor islands, either by Skype or in person. If you agree with our mission, I hope you'll consider helping us. If you have any questions about any of our activities, or if you'd like to discuss our underwriter arrangements, please write to me at j@fidel.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much for considering this suggestion. maybe even including you among our underwriters. Mahalo, I'm Jay Fidel of ThinkTech Hawaii, and I approve this message. If you approve it also, please give us a call.